Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Faith Lazy Mas. My name is Silvia and happy Valentine's Day. This is my first solo episode for 2025 and it is being released on Valentine's Day. I wanted to do a Valentine's Day episode, but a little bit different. I wanted to talk about the unconditional love of God and how amazing it is. This topic was very important to me. I really wanted to do it and have it released for Valentine's Day. It is so important to me that I'm actually recording it in my car during my lunch break. So the reason I'm doing it during my lunch break is because, and I know you guys hear this all the time, it's very hard for us to get together. It was very hard for us to find time where we all have time to record together. And this is not saying that the other girls don't have the time. I don't have the time too. Like, my kids are so busy. We barely have time to eat dinner before 8 o'clock some days. And so I was speaking to the Lord and I was like, I don't want to stop doing this podcast. Why is the enemy not letting me find time to record? And he spoke to me actually, and he said, your lunch break. I was like, okay, all right, God, I got you. Because I have a 1 hour lunch break every day. And a lot of times I spend it scrolling on TikTok and eating my lunch. Or a lot of times I spend it shopping, going to Ross, to Five Below, Beals, to my favorite store, Pop Shelf, and just buying things, doing things. I'm not using my time wisely. I have a whole hour during my work day where I could do whatever I want. And I'm like, why can't I just give that time to God? Record your podcast on times that you are given. Though this is a solo episode, it's not like it's easy for all of us to do it. But then I was like, I have the time to do one episode by myself and then include the girls on our second episode for the month. Like, why can't I do that? So that's why I am recording this episode in my car. And I made it a point to make sure I brought all my stuff with me today to record it. And because I wanted to talk about the unconditional love of God. What is God's unconditional love? To me, God's unconditional love is very important because I felt it, I know it, and it's a love that no one else can give you. No matter how much you say, oh, I love my husband, I love my boyfriend, I love my children. Yes, loving you, the love you have for your children is unconditional. It's kind of similar to God's love towards us because we're his children, right? He's our father. He loves his children. But there are some parents who don't express the same unconditional love that a parent has for their child like God has for us. In the book of Romans, which was written by Paul, he explains salvation and the righteousness of God. In chapter 5, Paul emphasizes that we did nothing to earn God's love. Christ died for us even while we're still lost in sin. The verse I wanted to read was Romans 5:8. And it says, but God demonstrated his own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And then this just made me think about a time where I misunderstood God's love, thinking I had to earn it. I remember before coming to Christ and being saved, I used to always say that this wasn't for me. Like, I used to say, oh, well, I'm still young. Once I mature and I don't, I'm going to stop doing this, and that, then I'll go to church and be saved. Or, oh, I don't want to stop drinking. I don't want to stop having any alcoholic beverages. Not that I was an alcoholic or even close to that, but I do love me a good margarita. And so I would say things like that. And it was like, oh, because if I continue to do these things, God's not going to love me, or I'm not worthy of being a Christian. And so this verse made me think about that time for me. And it made me think about how I was thinking wrong, because God's love is not based on our performance or perfection. He knows who we are deep down. He created us. He knows us. And whenever I finally decided to come to Jesus and, start my church journey and all that, I realized that I wasted so much time. I wasted so much time thinking I wasn't worthy of coming to church or wasn't worthy of being saved because of the things that I enjoyed doing. Not to say that you can have both, but God wasn't going to love me less. Like I said, I still enjoy a good drink every now and then. I haven't been drinking a lot lately just because in my household we're practicing healthy actions when it comes to drinking and food and stuff like that. And I just haven't been wanting to drink. I haven't been wanting to have a drink of alcohol or anything like that. But if there was a time where I went to a restaurant, just me and my husband, like I would still order a drink. And that doesn't mean God loves me less because I did that. That doesn't mean I have to, I have to prove myself back again to him for him to love me. And that to me is why I wanted to do this episode, because I wanted people to understand that God's love is unconditional no matter what. God's love is always available no matter what we've done, no matter what we did in our past, what we would do in the future. And I'm not saying to continue to do bad things, because no matter if you do bad things, God's going to love you. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is we have the choice to stop doing things that we know are wrong, but know that we're humans and sometimes we mess up and sometimes things happen that we have no control over. And it's okay. Like, that doesn't mean you are no longer loved by God. So that is what unconditional love is to me. The book of Hebrews is written to encourage Christians facing persecution and hardship. Chapter 12 reminds believers that God disciplines us as the loving Father, guiding us back to Him. Hebrews 12:6 says, "The Lord disciplines the one He loves." Personal story regarding this. This kind of reminds me of something that happened to me in my childhood. My dad, my earthly father, I guess you should say, is one of the sweetest man I've met, the sweetest man I know. And I remember one time I got in trouble. I don't remember why I got in trouble. I probably was talking back like I always did. But I got in trouble and my dad hit me. He spanked me with his belt. And I was sent to my room. I was crying. He hit me. He yelled at me. He was upset with me. I went to my room. I was crying. And my dad was not one to discipline us like that. It was my mom was the one that disciplined us the most. He wasn't like that. My dad, to this day, he is a very kind man. He's gullible, so it was easy for us to tell him things, and he believed us. He just loved us. But I remember this night because when I went to bed, my dad came in afterwards and he apologized. He apologized for hitting me, and he told me, like, I didn't want to do that. Deep down, I didn't want to hit you, but you made me very angry for doing. Like I said, I don't remember what I did. Knowing me, I talk back a lot, guys. I was the middle child. I was the rebel. I would say things out of my mind, out of my mouth, and it was just like, what? And I'm paying for it now with my middle child. But anyways, he came to my room and he apologized, and he was like, Mija, I didn't want to hit you. You made me very angry, and it got to that point, and I'm sorry that I did that, but I love you. And it just makes me think of this verse, right? It says the Lord disciplines the one He loves. Similar to what my dad did, he disciplined me and he loved me no matter what. But I learned from that mistake. And I'm not saying God is going to discipline you to the point where He's going to beat you down, but He kind of does. Sometimes we want things to happen, and we say God didn't want this for me, or God's not listening to me, and we feel like we're being beat down because our situation isn't changing. We are still in the same circle, going back and forth with the same relationship and the same type of jobs that we don't want to be at, and we feel like God's not listening to us. God listens to us. He hears us. He knows our heart. He already knows what's going to happen with you. But sometimes things take longer to happen for us because He's preparing us. He's preparing our heart. He's preparing our minds for the next thing in our life. We can't push Him to go faster in things like that because there's a process. And so sometimes we could think that I didn't get what I wanted. I didn't get what I prayed for, what I've been praying for, or I've been hoping for. But then later you realize it was God protecting you. There's times where we're like thinking we want this, we want that, we want this, but there's other things in the background we don't think about. Like maybe you're like, I want this car so bad, I want to get it, I want to get it, I want to get it. I'm going to go to the dealership and get it and get it and get it. And you're going to be so hard on press on it. You're going to be pushing for it. And then like it doesn't happen. And then you get upset with God. But then like 2 weeks later, you lose your job. And then that comes to the realization of it wasn't meant for you. no matter how hard and how much you wanted it, it wasn't meant for you. God had other plans for you. He knew you were going to lose that job. He knew there was going to be other hardships to come up where you won't be able to take care of this car that you wanted. You know, there's just a lot of things like that. And that just reminds me that trusting God's love, even when He says no or He wants us to wait, is okay. Like, that's the perfect love. He knows our story. He knows what's to come. And we just need to surrender our lives to Him and allow His will to happen. Because God's love comes as discipline, and not, like I said, not the discipline that's going to beat you down, but discipline to restore us, to fix our hearts, fix our minds, fix our priorities. You know, sometimes we get upset with our kids and we're like, oh my God, God, why are my kids so bad? Why are my kids this, and that? And we get so frustrated. In all reality, He's probably teaching us patience with our children. He wants us to sit down and analyze our kids and sit with them and realize what's the problem. A lot of times we just want our kids to be quiet just because we don't want to deal with it, but it's like, no, fix it. This also reminds me how God's love isn't just about blessings. Like, just because you are saved and you come to Christ, you can't expect to always be blessed because you're a Christian. You can't expect to always have God do everything you want. But also, He is teaching and refining us. Like I said, He is preparing us for what's next. We don't know what's next. He does. And going back to talking about love being like our Father's love. And I know a lot of people, they're not raised with their fathers, or they sometimes are raised with single parents, or sometimes they're raised with their grandparents, or, you know, someone. And the way you know that that person loves you, the way you feel safe with them, secured with them, the way you feel that nothing could ever happen between you and that person because you know that love is real. I promise you, once you know God's love, once you've encountered God's love, that love will no longer feel the same. I love my parents. I love my daddy. I love my husband. I love my children. And I know they love me. They've said it. They've shown me through actions. They've shown me through gifts. They've shown me through their words. But though they're here physically and they're able to show me all this stuff, once I felt God's love, once I felt the Holy Spirit speak to me and tell me how worthy I am, how important I am, like, my mom can tell me I'm worthy 1,000 times, but it's nothing compared of when you feel it from God. And that's another reason why I wanted to talk about His love, because there's a lot of times where people feel like they're not worthy of it. And it's not that you're not worthy of it, it's that you're worthy of it, but then you feel like you don't deserve it, right? You feel like you don't deserve it, but trust me, everyone deserves it. Everyone deserves it. And that just brings me to the most famous verse ever. John 3:16. This verse is from Jesus's conversation with Nicodemus. He was a Pharisee who struggled to understand salvation. Jesus explains that God's love is shown through His willingness to sacrifice His own Son for our salvation. John 3:16 says, "For God so loved the world that He gave His one and only Son." Can y'all tell me, or do y'all know anyone who is willing to die for a stranger for their own good? Like, can you go up to someone on the street and just be like, will you die for me? And they're going to be like, oh yeah, sure, I'll die for you. There's no one else in this world. And possibly, yes, your parents or someone would say, I'll die for you. I'll die for you. But they'll die for you because they love you. They know you. But would a stranger die for you? No, they wouldn't. And God sent His Son to do that, to save all of us, to save humanity, to save everybody. And that just reminds us that there's no greater love than Christ's sacrifice. He literally sent His only Son to die for us. Imagine being Mary. Imagine being Mary. Like, I think about like my kids and them growing up, and then, praying that they don't walk in the wrong steps and like be involved in like drugs or violence and things like that. Like, I cannot imagine knowing that my child will die one day while I'm still alive. Like, I know everyone will die, but knowing that my child is going to die, especially while I'm still alive, and I can't do anything about it. There's nothing you can do about it. You just have to go with emotions with it. That would kill me. And I just think about Mary when she did that, and I'm like, how did she do it? Like, she was so strong. Like, she was so disciplined. She was so disciplined and obedient. And it's just knowing that God sent his only son to do that, to save us because he loved us. That's just, there's no greater love than Christ's sacrifice, is what I'm trying to say. His love is so good. It sustains you. It feeds you. It gives you a peace that you can't understand. And I just wanted to share that with you. I know it's Valentine's Day and you guys are thinking about, my husband didn't ask me to be his Valentine, or I don't have a Valentine, or things like that. And yeah, that's cute. It's Valentine's Day. Let's be reminded and encouraged that there's no greater love than God's love at the end of the day. And I hope that you guys one day get to experience that. I hope you guys one day get to feel that love and know that you guys are loved unconditionally no matter what. You don't have to prove that you're worthy of it. You don't have to expect any type of discipline that's going to be a beatdown towards you because of any mistakes you did. Like, as long as you repent and reconcile with him, he will still continue to love you unconditionally. He will still continue to feed you. He will still continue to embrace you. You are still his child no matter what. You were his child before you came to him. He was just waiting for you. No matter where you are in life, God's love is unwavering. So yeah, guys, I just wanted to talk about that. I wanted to just let you know that God's love heals and restores us. It protects us. It comforts us. He teaches us so much with his love as well. He wants us to love others as he loves us. And though that's very hard, especially when it comes to situations when someone, deep down someone's doing you wrong, they're doing you wrong, and you're like, how can I do that, God? Like, how can you expect me to do that? Like, you really do have to do that. You can set boundaries with that person who's hurt you, but God does want you to still love them, care for them. A good verse for that is John 13:31. He says, "A new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another." We have to learn to love difficult people. This includes even in our marriages. Sometimes we are in bad marriages. There's a lot of women out there who are in marriages that they want out of, and it's hard, and I get that. But if we're patient with our spouses, if we try to reason with them and understanding, if we actually surrender it to Jesus, leave it at the foot of his cross and leave it up to him and his will to happen, you will start seeing changes. You will start seeing things happen, like literally happen. You will know what you need to do. Like, he will show you what needs to happen. He will show you what you need to do. It's not going to be a day and night situation where let me pray tonight and then tomorrow morning my husband's better. No, it's a process. But there's a way to love in difficult situations, like I said, in your marriage, in your parenting, in your friendships, in your job. Sometimes we work with people we don't want to work with. There's a lot of people in our jobs that, they walk different lives. We have no control of that. They walk different lives. They have different beliefs. Sometimes you can't express your belief because they're judging you or they're already saying things. And sometimes you have to understand and realize that that's okay. But because they are different, that doesn't give you the okay to treat them different. Love one another as I have loved you is what he says. So guys, I just want to wish you guys a happy Valentine's Day. I hope you guys are showered with love today by your kids, by your boyfriend, by your husband, by your friends. I know a lot of girls do Galentines. I hope that you are filled with love with friends and family and stuff, but also that you come to understand and actually feel God's unconditional love. I pray that for you all. I pray that everyone experiences that love. I feel like my life has changed completely since I've allowed myself to surrender to him and allow his love to fill me. Like, it's been a big change in my life, my family's life. And so I just pray that one day you all get to feel that. I want to thank you all for listening. This was a short episode. I did want to just give you guys something, to keep you till we come back. I want to talk to all the people that shared those who follow us on Instagram. I had posted, like, give us something to speak about, give us something to talk about. We will be picking from those recommendation, and I hope to use one of those for our next episode. So stay tuned. We might be picking your recommendation. But I do want to encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, leave us a review, share our episode, share with friends and family if you love listening to us. Maybe they want to listen to us. And so, yeah, thank you so much for listening. I hope you guys have an awesome Valentine's Day. Hugs and kisses. XOXO. Bye, guys.